Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to explore a really fascinating part of the financial world, one where the main goal is actually progress, not just profit. We're going to look at how social organizations can raise money using brand new tools that feel more like investments than your typical donations.
So let's just jump right in. When you invest, what do you expect? A financial return, right? You put money in and you hope to get more money out. It's pretty straightforward. But what if we just flip that whole idea on its head? What if the main return you got was seeing real, tangible, positive change in society? That's the core concept we're going to unpack today.
Here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk about the mindset of investing for impact. Then, we'll dive into a brand new thing called the ZCZP and figure out how it works. After that, we'll look at social funds, and finally, we'll wrap it all up with what this actually means for you.
All right, let's start with the big picture, investing for impact. This really requires a fundamental shift in how we think about our money and its purpose.
This slide, right here, gets to the heart of it. On the left, you've got traditional investing. It's all about financial profit. But on the right, investing on a social stock exchange, it's all about social impact. The goal isn't just to own a piece of a company. It's to get behind a mission you believe in.
So here's the crucial thing to remember. When you put your money into these kinds of instruments, it's probably best to think of it as a kind of, a structured donation. You're funding a cause, and your return is the good that cause does, not necessarily getting cash back in your pocket.
Okay, let's move on to our first key instrument. And yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful. The Zero Coupon, Zero Principal Bond, or ZCZP for short. This is a completely new way for nonprofits to raise the money they need to do their work and grow. So what is it really? A ZZP is a special kind of bond that can only be issued by a registered nonprofit organization, an NPO. And they don't just issue these for general day-to-day costs. No, it's for very specific projects. Think building a new school or funding a clean water initiative in a village.
Now, the name sounds super complex, but it actually tells you everything you need to know. Zero coupon just means you won't get any interest payments. Simple. And zero principal means that when the bond's term is up, you don't get your original investment back. That money is fully committed to the NPO's project.
All right, so now we know what a ZCTP is. Let's dig into how it actually works. Because, as you can imagine, there are some specific rules to this game. Let's break down the key rules here. And there are two things I really want to point out. First, look at the minimum investment, just 1,000 rupees. That's specifically designed so everyday people can participate. Second, and this is important, you can't trade these bonds on the market like a stock. Once you invest, your money is locked in to support that NPO's project until the bond matures.
Okay, so what's the risk? Since you're not expecting a financial return, the risk isn't about losing your money. You've already committed that from the get-go. The real risk here is about impact. It's the risk that the nonprofit doesn't actually achieve the social goal it promised to accomplish with your funds.
And this brings up a really important question. I mean, if you can't track performance with profit and loss statements, how do you know if your investment is actually doing any good? How do you hold the organization accountable?
Thankfully, there's a system for this. NPOs have to be super transparent. They must share their vision, their strategy, and their financials. And crucially, they have to provide regular updates on their social impact. So as an investor, you can, and you absolutely should, do your homework. Look at their past projects, read their reports. An NPO's reputation and its ability to raise more money in the future depends entirely on its track record of delivering real-world results.
All right, let's switch gears to our second method. If picking individual NPOs and doing all that research feels a bit daunting, there's another way, social impact funds. And the best way to think of these is like a mutual fund, but for social good.
So a social impact fund is technically a type of alternative investment fund, or AIF. Now don't let that fancy name fool you. It just means it invests in things other than your typical stocks and bonds. Its job is to pool money from lots of different investors and then put that capital into a whole portfolio of social enterprises.
And this table just illustrates the difference perfectly. A regular mutual fund, it invests in stocks and bonds to try and make you a profit. A social impact fund, on the other hand, invests in social ventures to generate a social impact. Your role completely shifts from being a passive financial investor to being an active supporter of causes, all guided by the expertise of the fund.
Now here's what's really exciting about this: the accessibility. A typical AIF requires a minimum investment of 1 crore rupees, which, let's be honest, is out of reach for most of us. But regulators have made special rules here.
The minimum for a social impact fund can be 10 lakh. And, get this, if the fund focuses only on organizations listed on the social stock exchange, that minimum drops all the way down to just 2 lakh rupees. That opens the door for so many more people to get involved.
So why go through a fund? Well, just like with a mutual fund, you get a professional fund manager. They do all the heavy lifting for you. They research the organizations, they do the due diligence, and they build a diversified portfolio that's designed to maximize social impact. And for all that work, they charge a small fee.
Okay, we have covered a lot of new ground, so let's pull it all together and highlight the key takeaways for anyone who might be interested in becoming a social investor.
So here are the 4 big things to remember. First, a Z0ZP is basically a structured, non-repayable donation to a cause you really believe in. Second, if you don't want to pick individual projects, a social impact fund lets a professional manage a whole portfolio of them for you. Third, thanks to new rules, these funds are way more accessible to everyday investors. And finally, just remember, this is a brand new field. The whole landscape is still evolving, which makes it a really exciting space to watch.
And that brings us to our final question, which is really just for you to think about. In a world that's so often focused on financial returns, is the knowledge that your money created positive, lasting change? Is that a powerful enough reward? It's a whole new way to think about investing and what it really means to create value. If you found this breakdown helpful and want to explore more new ideas in finance and beyond, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.